Welcome to another video. To this video, I'm going to be working on my 1971 Dodge Challenger RT, and I'm going to be not fixing, but doing a little bit of work on the exhaust. Stay tuned.
Music bed.
So the reason I said I'm not fixing the exhaust, but I am gonna be doing some work is because, well, let's get down here. I'll show you. So when I got this exhaust ordered, it's the Hooker Blackheart exhaust, and they have two options, which, well, I think they had two options. I think now it's only one option, but you can get a 3-inch or 2.5. Now, I said, well, I'll get the 3-inch because bigger is better. But with that being said, with the QA1 coilover kit on the car here, it's been a little bit challenging, and especially, well, it doesn't matter really on the rear end. I mean, the Dodge rear end, if it was an 8 3/4, would have been the same thing, but with the coilover suspension, you have a lot more things going on here. So originally, if you have leaf springs on one of these cars, the leaf springs go right where the frame rail is, right here. So if you can imagine the leaf springs going right over here on the side, you know, like here actually to the side, farther out. So they'll be right out here. I mean, the exhaust is not going to interfere with anything. And so that's what the exhaust is designed for. If you have factory leaf springs, everything, then you will have no problem whatsoever with this exhaust kit. If you have a coilover, and like I do, well, you know, I also added the sway bar link. So this one here is right touching this one here. And so that can make some noise. Also, it's kind of hard to see, but you can tell that coil spring right there is pretty much about 1/8 of an inch away from the exhaust pipe. And that's after I tweaked it just a little bit. And so that can also make noise. And then this little control arm, if you can maybe see it here with the camera, right where that zip tie is, it was pretty much touching on there as well. And so all those things are, you know, things to consider. And that's on this side. It's the same thing on the other side. So coil spring, I think the other side's actually laying on it, and the control arm is, if it's not hitting, it's right on it. So the only thing, the other side, the sway bar is not really hitting on it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna mark all those spots and try to modify my exhaust a little bit so that it just fits a little bit better with the coilover. Again, nothing wrong with the exhaust. It actually fit great and everything. Sounds really good. It's just that with the coilover suspension, the exhaust is not made to go around, you know, the sprockets for the rear, upper control arm. The coilover's been right in the way of the exhaust, so it was quite a bit more things to consider once all that was added to the car, right? So I'm gonna mark. I have a big Sharpie here. I'm gonna mark, for instance, like on this one here. This one's gonna be a little bit harder because the clamp is right there, and so. Honestly, I don't know what I'm gonna end up doing, so we'll see. I know that on the other side, the sway bar is not touching. Let's see, it's about an inch in. Yeah, it's about in the same spot, but for whatever reason on this side we have more clearance. So I also don't want to move the sway bar, and I mean I'm gonna make a problem here or there. So I may I'll have to do something. I'll figure that out. Move that stuff around and then maybe weld the exhaust here and then make a little indentation for the pipe. So I'll figure it out. This one's not that big of a deal. The big one is the coilover, and really the main reason that I'm even messing with this right now is because like when we went on that road trip with the exhaust, you know, here, when I would decelerate on the freeway, you know, you usually get a little bit more noise and vibrations when you decelerate, and so with the exhaust hitting on all these things, it would make quite a bit of noise. And it kind of went away. On the way back, I think I was looking, the upper control arms a little bit worn out, and so I probably dug into it a little where it was not making the noise. But if I can just modify the exhaust a little bit so it has more clearance, then that's just gonna overall be better. So I'm gonna get 9/16, I believe is what these are. Loosen these, I'm gonna do one side at a time, so loosening all these clamps. And then I'm gonna mark first where like the coilover is and the upper control arm. Those are the main things. And then what I'm gonna try to do is take this thing out as one piece. If I'm able to take that piece out of the car without disconnecting it, then that's gonna make it easier, because then I could just weld these together and there's not gonna be a problem modifying that a little bit. But if I can't do that, then I'll have to figure something else out. Maybe move the sway bar this way, just, you know, about 1/2 inch. That's gonna divide it up. And I could probably do that if I move that clamp on the rear end. I haven't welded that in because of that reason. I wanted to make sure that I didn't have to move it, and so if I move that clamp in, I may be able to just move the sway bar this way and I don't have to worry about that. So let me start marking and then I'll show you what I'm gonna do afterwards. Okay, so I haven't taken this out yet, but I did figure out, you see the sway bar now has 1/2 inch clearance here where this clamp is, so that's gonna stay. Just because I remember when I was putting this pipe in, it was really hard to get it around all this stuff, and so if I attach this piece here with the hanger, it's gonna be even harder to get it in there. So I was able to move that clamp in on the differential there and shift the sway bar this way. So now we got 1/2 inch clearance here, 1/2 inch clearance on the other side. That's enough clearance where, you know, even if the exhaust moves and shakes, it's not gonna hit that part. So that's gonna be good there. And then I think I am gonna end up maybe twisting this piece here so it lowers the pipe just slightly. But we'll see when we get to the back. But I am gonna take this part out now and then modify this piece here so it clearances those control arms. All right, so went ahead and got the exhaust out of there, and this looks horrible, but the plan is I got this piece of pipe here, and so I'm gonna cut, I have to sand it and make it look, you know, fit tight, but I'm gonna cut this piece so it fits in here, and so that way it's gonna be not just flat, because making it flat will give me about close to 1/2 inch clearance here where the spring was, but having this piece be curved the other way, which I can actually even hammer it, make it a little bit flat. but that's gonna, you know, put it in here, I'll weld it, and that's gonna give me the clearance for that spring to not be right on there. So like I said, I still need to, I'm gonna cut the piece of pipe now, and then I'll sand this so that it fits on there pretty good. And so that's where it's gonna be modified, because this was this way on the car, and so that coil spring goes right here. And then this is where that other upper control arm goes. And so I'm gonna do the same thing here, just cut this piece a little bit and put a piece of the pipe here, and that will give it the little bit of clearance here, you know, 1/4 inch to maybe 1/2 inch. But that'll be enough for it not to be rubbing and making noise. And wear down that control arm. That's aluminum, and that's why it wore down pretty quick, looks like, and it was just rubbing in here. So I'm gonna keep working on this so it looks nicer than what it looks now, and then I'll show you before I start welding it. Okay, so I went ahead and welded that piece in, and so it looks a little bit weird, but welded it and then sanded it a little bit. I am gonna spray a little bit of silver paint, because with stainless steel you're supposed to put, you know, gas, fill the tube with gas, you know, put a plug on both sides, fill it with argon, that way it welds better. But I don't have that, so this is gonna lose its stainless capabilities where it will rust. So I'm gonna put a little coat of paint, high heat paint in here. But this went like this under the car, and I already kind of test fitted it. And the coilover, I guess, hold it here in place. The coilover went around this area like this. So as you can see, that's gonna give it, you know, a good clearance all around, so that it doesn't hit. So that's what it looks like. I may need to go over a couple of these little spots here, but I'm also gonna do this spot here on this side. This is where the other control arm went, and so I'm just gonna, same thing, cut this probably a little bit wider, just so I can put like a piece of this piece of pipe here, and just make a little clearance there. So I'm gonna finish this one, and then once this pipe is done, I'll show you what the finished result looks like. And I'm not gonna have to do the other side because I went ahead and moved the sway bar, so that would be it for this side, and then I can move to the other side there. Okay, so I went ahead and I have this paint that's kind of like silver. Went ahead and did that piece there, so that's all welded. I'm just gonna let that paint dry a little bit. I'll put it back in there, see what it looks like. I think that's gonna be enough to give it a clearance, so it's just not laying up against it. And that's the main thing, because if it was laying right against it with, you know, the engine vibrations, just overall vibrations, it was just getting that, you know, kind of like metal on metal noise. Plus also with the suspension going up and down, it was just making some noise. So now that should be clearanced enough, you won't have that issue. And then I'll just have to do the other side. So I'm gonna let that dry for a little bit, put it back in there, and I'll show you all what it looks like. I may have to also, or I'm gonna modify the back just so the tailpipes aren't hitting on the balance, and so that they look better here on the back. We'll see what that looks like. Okay, put the exhaust back on. So here on the backs, you can see I made the gap about 1/2 inch all around, so the pipe won't hit the balance, which that wasn't too bad. And then on here, it might be a little hard to see, but you can see right there the coil spring and the exhaust. There's about 1/2 inch clearance. And then that upper control arm, it's hard to see, but there is at least 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch clearance there on top. Sway bar, there's still about 1/4 inch clearance here. And I think I can shift it a little bit this way, but as it is right now, you know, and this is probably as much as it would really vibrate by itself as I'm hitting it here, but nothing is hitting whatsoever. And so, you know, your exhaust doesn't really move much, but if it's up against something, you know, if your exhaust is, let's just say, it's hitting like this, like right next to something, well, every little movement's gonna give you a rattling noise. So that's good on this side. I'm gonna move over to the other side, do the same thing. So just pull all the pipes out. I'm gonna mark them first where the coilover goes and the upper control arm, pull them all out, and then do the same thing as I did on this side. So, and that would pretty much just wrap up the, really just the update here to the exhaust. Again, this is nothing that would be because of this exhaust system. It's actually fit perfect on the car. And actually, as you can see on this side, there's about 1/4 inch clearance on the sway bar, so I might just leave it. But see, like even here, little movement, it'll hit. So that's just, you know, the way it fit, but because I have the coilover system and all that. So if you have a regular Challenger, you wouldn't have any of these problems because you would just have your regular leaf springs on here. If you do get a QA1 coilover kit for one of these cars, then you know, you probably will have to modify your exhaust a little bit if you go with one of these 3-inch exhaust systems. But when I ordered this, I'm pretty sure there was a 2.5 system available. And so if I would have gone with the 2.5, I think a lot of these issues wouldn't be there because it's a little bit smaller diameter. And with that little bit, you know, 1/4 inch on its side, that's enough to clearance a lot of these things here. So, you know, you kind of do things, you learn, but you know, it's not reasonable for me that I'm on a budget to say, let me just get a whole new exhaust system, or even if I did just like the tailpipe sections, that's going to be a little bit more of an expense. And the other thing is, last time I checked, the 2.5 was not available. So I don't know if that's changed, or maybe different manufacturers have different size. So I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to mark the coilover, the upper control arm, pull this all out, and then modify it a little bit, put it back on. Okay, went ahead and finished this pipe here. I just sprayed a little bit of paint. Same thing as the other side, so just put the extra pipe on there, get some clearance. I'm just gonna let that dry for a little bit, clean up all my tools, and then I'm gonna put it back in the car. So should be straightforward, just putting everything back, tightening up the exhaust, and then just lining up this exhaust tips so they look better, a little bit more room all around, like this side. But the nice thing is nothing is hitting, so hopefully the same thing on that side, and we'll be all set. Okay, so the paint dried. Let's get this exhaust back in there. I didn't lift up the car or anything just because I wanted the suspension to be pretty much at the right height that it's normally going to be. That way I knew exactly how much I was going to need to trim or anything like that. So now this goes in here pretty nice and easy and simple. Like I said, this exhaust fit really nice overall. It's just, you know, I had some of these issues because I have the coilover suspension. If I had the original leaf springs way out here, you know, they would be going down. I think they were on top of the differential, maybe on the bottom, but they would be going, well, let's see, the control arm is right out here. Yeah, so they would be going like way out here. So that would be no problem at all. But with the coilover, or if you put a coilover on your Challenger, then this might be something you may have to do. So other than that, I mean, it fits right in here. I also did have to, I cut the muffler on this side on the front because my drive shaft was barely hitting it. So when you would turn to the driver's side, you know, kind of the body rolled a little bit, it would hit a little bit. And that took care of by centering the rear end, making sure it was completely centered, but I also clearanced the muffler just a little bit. And I didn't even take it off. I mean, actually this would have been a great time to take it off and did it, but I did it as installed and it doesn't hit anymore, so I'm not worried about it, but I did have to modify that as well. So just so everyone knows, but as it is right here, putting this thing back in here, I mean, I can put my hand between the coilover and the exhaust. I can also grip my upper control arm all the way around. So there's a lot more clearance on this side than there was on the driver's side. So that's a plus. So I have the exhaust clamp right over here. I'm gonna put this piece on there first before tying it up. And so this one has the hanger, which I also took the bolt off. And now that I remember, I'm gonna install the hanger on this one here. Now technically on this one on the back, on this hanger here, really the exhaust, I added some hangers on the front over there on the exhaust by the X pipe, and because on this kit, you know, it had these hangers here which go through the seatbelt bolts, and then it has the hanger here for this part. But there was nothing between this one here by the muffler and all the way to the front hanging onto the header. And normally when you have something like that, it's going to put some stress on your headers. So I added 2 more hangers up there. There's some rubber pieces and I welded them to the body so it supports the front. So this hanger right here is not really doing too much. Other than just kind of helping support everything, but quite honestly, the way this thing fit in here, I was just looking at it. It really didn't need it anyway, so once everything is in here, I'll tighten up this clamp. That way this doesn't turn and I have the clearance that I need. And that's why with exhaust you kind of want to install it but have everything be kind of loose so that you can make sure everything is on there all the way tight, or on the right spot before you tighten up everything. So all right. So now that I got this one, that looks like a great spot for everything to be tightened up. Have a good amount of clearance all around up front here. Tighten that up, and then so make sure you pre-plan, because I didn't pre-plan on this one. I was gonna switch up the clamp, but actually the fuel tank is a little close to this one. I'm just gonna put it right here, where I can still use my drill to tighten it up, but it's out of the way of sway bar link and everything. And that's the thing with the clamps and everything, just always pre-plan where they're gonna sit. That way they're not, sometimes on the bottom of the car they're gonna be hanging down. If you put them on the bottom, that's like an extra inch, right? So just turn them so they're on the side, or the bolts on the side. This one, there's clearance here, as you can see now. And I knew I was gonna try to push this sway bar that way, so I'm gonna actually try to do that before I'm done, but there's about an inch clearance here. On the other side there was about 3/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, so that's still plenty of clearance. So I'm just gonna also put this nut here for the hanger. The exhaust kit came with really nice metal plate here for this hanger, but unfortunately when I put it all together I forgot to tighten up the nylon nut on this side, and the nut fell off with that little plate, so I just used a big washer with the lock washer as well on this side. But that was completely my fault. I guess I just forgot to tighten it up. So so this is just here for this hanger. I have enough room to throw a wrench right behind there for that bolt. So that's good. Even with the movement or anything, nothing's gonna hit up front there. So now I'm just gonna work on this other part here. Got my exhaust pipe. So I think this was one of the pieces that it's a little bit kind of not like a circle, it's kind of like oval shaped. And so when I first got the exhaust, it took a little while to get this pipe to fit in here, because for whatever reason this bar wasn't completely round. But if you just kind of turn around you're able to get it in there. So, and same on here. I'm just gonna put this clamp this way. You know, there's plenty of room, nothing that's gonna be on the way. So let's see that way. Well, that side I have it this other way. Let's just make it match. Not that it really will matter, but that way it's the same way as the other side. And then on the exhaust tip, looks like this side we have it facing out, so gonna put it the same way. Same thing on this pipe here on the back. It wasn't completely round. It was a little bit hard to put this pipe in here, but I just turn it and kind of force it in. It'll go right in there. I'm just gonna push this in because it was harder to do with the tip in there, but I mean, you can turn this. It just gets a little tight. So this part here has, you know, different bends. And as you turn it, it's gonna help you position the tip where you want it. So the goal is to get this exhaust tip in the best spot where it's also not where it also has some clearance all around that balance like I did on the other side. So I'm gonna this just takes a little bit more time. Oh boy. right, I'm gonna pause you guys. I picked the harder side to show you all how this worked, but that's how things go sometimes. Okay, after fighting with it for a little while, I got it in there. I just took the pipe off, put this in there, and put it all in there together. And then just aligned it, so you know I got about same ½ inch all the way around the exhaust tip back here. So now nothing hits. If it moves or rattles, nothing's gonna hit. So that's pretty much it. So I just wanted to get that done so that there's no noise. That's all taken care of, so I don't have to really mess with the exhaust at all. But overall, not too bad. So that came out pretty good. Now that's probably not the right way to do things. You know, maybe you can smash the pipe or whatever it may be. If I had like a TIG welder, I could probably weld it way nicer as well, put some gas so it's really nice in there, but it is what it is. You know, maybe even modify the exhaust so it actually curves around those pieces better, things like that, or just route it a different way if I had like an exhaust bender, things like that. But you know, I just work with what I got. So there you have it. If you have any questions, comments, leave them below. Subscribe to the channel. That's it for this one. We'll see you next time.